Matchmaker.fm connects podcasters and guests. Welcome to Matched, the show where we talk to some of the most incredible guests available for an interview right now. I'm your host, James Mulvany, founder of Matchmaker.fm, and this is Matched. Hey, it's James here from Matchmaker.fm. Welcome to another episode of Matched. Today I'm joined by Scott Colenutt. How's it going, Scott?
Very well, thank you, James.
Let's start off with some icebreakers then. First of all, what is the worst job you've ever had?
Easy. So I can't remember how old I was, but I was in between jobs, didn't know what I was doing with my life. And I had to go to a factory where they put the credit card numbers on the credit cards. And I lasted 2 hours.
That's a really specific. How do they put the factory? Is it just literally punching them in?
Yeah, so I was responsible for making sure that the numbers were actually on the cards at the end. So it's still a mystery to me how they got there.
And so you had to validate like a long number each time and make sure.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I kind of looked at it, was one of those moments. I looked around and I saw people that had been there 20, 30 years. And I think I was allowed to go on a coffee break. So they let me go and I left the building and never went back.
I mean, I think there's moments like that sometimes that, yeah, especially when you're younger growing up, you know, they can kind of do you a favor in a sense. Yeah. Okay. And next question. Would you rather be a superhero or the world's best chef?
Nah, superhero. I did think about being the world's best chef, but honestly, I hate cooking, and I like being cooked for. And I think if you're a superhero, there are probably a lot of people out there that would cook for you. So I think you get the best.
That's very true. Okay, let's dive into it. Who is Scott, and tell us about what you do?
Oh no, that's what a horrific question. Who is Scott? Well, I guess in the formal sense, I'm the managing director of a UK marketing agency called SiteVisibility. Over there, I host a podcast called the Internet Marketing Podcast. It's a shorter form, very popular marketing podcast that's been going about 15 years, and I've been hosting that for about 6 months. I'm a marketer. I've been interested in marketing since, again, a young age. I can remember 15, 16, always being into writing, journalism, the creative side of life. And now I'm the host of my own podcast called The Advertising Hour, which is so it's SiteVisibility Internet Marketing Podcast is my 9 to 5. It's my more formal podcasting hosting duties. And then the Advertising Hour is more of my whimsical thoughts, observations on life, and ability to go kind of deeper into myself.
Okay, cool. And so how are you finding kind of balancing both?
Well, that's a good question. It's really nice to have the balance, actually. So the Advertising Hour, it really is how I describe it. We'll probably link to the podcast.co page, but it's a part study, part meditation, part therapy. It really is informal. I go off on lots of tangents. I like to make great value episodes and good quality episodes, but I'm willing to explore my thoughts and my guests' thoughts a little bit more. SiteVisibility Marketing Podcast is a little bit more succinct, a little bit more polished and more formal. And so actually having the balance is really nice for me.
And I suppose as well, you know, as a business, you mentioned you've been doing it for 15 years. How do you find it's kind of, is it easy to talk about marketing just sort of like day in, day out on a podcast? You've obviously not run out of ideas if you've been doing it for 15 years as a business. And also, has it been a good tool to kind of draw business into your company?
Yeah. So for the Internet Marketing Podcast for SiteVisibility, that is one of the primary reasons they set that podcast up 15 years ago. I've been with the company 7 years and hosting the podcast for 6 months, but I've been managing it from behind the scenes, like booking guests and so forth, for a couple of years now. Yeah, it brings in leads, so that. But I think that the lead generation aspect of podcasting isn't something that comes immediately. Yep. So it's something that I know for SiteVisibility it took a couple of years, but now 15 years into the podcast, it's a fairly frequent lead generator. But again, we're talking that's longevity. The Advertising Hour, it's not really my goal to generate leads, so it's not really a part of the process.
You're just having fun with it. It's part of your passion.
Yeah. So the goal there. So I've forgotten what the question was, but the goal really is more of just exploring my train of thought. And oh no, sorry, you talked about is it easy kind of talking about marketing over and over again. And the answer is yes so far. But again, in terms of podcasting, I've only been doing it 6 months or so. But I think the thing that I enjoy about marketing is it's all encompassing. So it ranges from the creative side of art and copywriting and psychology, and then the more logical side, budgeting, financial management, paid
Yeah.
media, and so it's fairly easy for me to always observe or find tangents to go off on in conversation. So yeah.
And what do you look for when you try and find guests, for either podcast?
Yeah. So oddly enough, I've not actually been. I didn't intend on for the internet marketing podcast. I'm looking for anyone that really has a strong, unique angle or opinion on something. So that we get a lot of requests for that podcast, and so I'm always looking for someone that can come on, jump on a call, and I can host a conversation with them really easily. I don't have to provoke much out of them because they already have that voice or that perspective on things. But for the advertising hour, I'm really just looking for anyone that's willing to explore their thoughts with me. So anyone that's willing to sit in that awkward silence for a bit, enjoy the process of just exploring thoughts and conversation.
Okay, great. And who, if you could pick like your ideal guest for the advertising hour, if you could pick anyone, who would
Yeah,
that be?
ideal guest. Well, I guess you could. Well, number one is they have to have a solid internet connection because the amount of time it's so frustrating with podcasting if someone's internet cuts out and you lose the flow of conversation. So have a solid, have some solid Wi-Fi. Um, I think there's one person that comes to mind actually, who's I guess a writer, an author, and his name's James
Hmm.
Altucher, and I really like his style of podcasting as both a host and as a guest. Um, Very engaging and just again willing to ask the difficult questions and explore the difficult answers. Yeah.
Mm. So do you think that's sort of like a profile of your ideal guest would be someone who's kind of willing to go deep in that respect then, and actually they're willing to discuss
Yeah, good.
topics that are perhaps a little bit awkward or maybe not used to sort of people used to sort of discussing?
Yeah, I thrive. I really do thrive in the awkwardness. I really love it. Um, and so though, and from Matchmaker.fm, some of the best messages I get are from people who are really authentically themselves. So it's kind of like not a formal pitch. It's um, it's just like yeah, it's just more informal, but they're willing to just jump on and have a conversation. I really enjoy those
That's
messages.
interesting. So, as a podcaster, what would you say makes a good guest pitch? If someone's watching this and they want to appear on podcasts like yours, how is best to do that initial approach? What sort of message should they send?
For me, I think this must vary from
Mm,
person to person, but I don't like the traditional type of kind of PR
hmm
message. So I don't. I guess maybe if I talk this through, I'll find out what I do like. But I guess I don't like. Hi Scott. I've got 16 years experience in B2B marketing, and I think I'll be able to talk to your guests about anything. Like it's too broad. It's like I've seen a
Yeah,
million of them
yeah.
every day. But some people, I've had a few messages where it's just um, one guy was just he's coming up on my podcast. His name's Ian Ward, and he has terminal cancer from a brain tumor. And his message to me was very simple. It was just really authentic and like I've got this really interesting story. I've got this struggle. I'd really appreciate your thoughts on what I could do advertising
Mm,
wise. And at the same breath, maybe I can teach people a few things about what it's like to live with cancer and go through
mm.
this experience. And I just thought it's just a really nice, interesting message and
Yeah.
genuine.
So
Yeah.
so I think so the key to make it there is just be yourself. Like don't try and put on this
Mm.
facade of like, I'm a big shot CEO or I represent a big blue chip
Yeah.
company or whatever. It's just you, just be yourself and focus on your
Mm.
individual qualities versus trying to be too much of a representative of a business or a brand.
Yeah, because you just get too many. You get too many messages for as a podcast host. You just get too many messages like that. So the ones that cut through are where the authenticity really
Okay,
stands out.
cool. That's
Yeah,
that's really good advice there. Um, what is it about the podcasting medium that you most like?
I don't. I hate it. No, it's terrifying. No, it was a challenge for me. That's what I like
Yeah.
most about it because I'm someone who comes from a writing more of a writing background. I'm more of an introvert, and for me, it was the ability to. Here's how I thought
Mm,
about it. If you're a writer, you manage to kind of write out your thoughts. You get them out of your system. If you're into fitness, you exercise, you sweat it out. And if you're an obsessive thinker or curious
yeah.
like I am, it's really hard to get everything out of your head and particularly if you don't like speaking
Yeah.
like me. So I thought to myself, well, why don't I just jump on the mic and do some streams of consciousness speaking, and maybe that will help me. Maybe that make me feel better, and it has.
Brilliant.
And so what I love about that. So I love that. I love the ability through services like Matchmaker and FM, and just the podcast community's willingness to jump on each other's podcasts. I really like that. So, and I guess in line with that, what I love about it from a marketing perspective is that it's the one medium in which you can set up and get going pretty much whenever you want. Yeah, you're not too much you're not restricted. There's no huge barrier to entry. And I really enjoy that.
I think as well the barriers to entry have reduced significantly over the past few years as well. Like it's really something that, you know, anyone could go and buy a USB microphone, plug it in, and it's so much easier to record these days. There's so many different software options out there, you know, and also there's like the wealth of information, like tutorials on YouTube. How, you know, you just go on YouTube, how do I record my microphone, how do I edit a podcast? There's just so much stuff out there. Whereas like, if I think, you know, 15 years ago, obviously when SiteVisibility first started the podcast, it was completely different then. I think you had to probably have more specialist knowledge if you wanted to go down that route. But you know, that's why it's become so accessible.
No, I agree with
okay, great. Can you tell us why you signed up to Matchmaker?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I'll tell you what it was. It was that podcast.co, I think, has an amazing user interface. I've used a few other podcasting tools through SiteVisibility, both hosting platforms and other kind of podcasting tools. And I started using podcast.co, and I just loved the user interface. It was so easy to use. And that actually was what encouraged me. The ease of use combined with the marketing that you guys put out was what encouraged me to kind of take the leap during the pandemic, as many people have, to launch my own podcast. And because I found that process so seamless and so easy, when I can't actually remember, but I saw some notification about matchmaker.fm, and I thought, well, if podcast.co is such an easy platform to use, this is probably going to be pretty good. And honestly, I wasn't let down, because I honestly had no intention of the Advertising Hour being an interview-based podcast. I was willing to just jump on the mic, and I was going to speak for an hour every 2 weeks, just myself, on marketing matters and trains of thought. And I got all these amazing guest requests to be on the show, which I hadn't even launched yet. I literally just have the brand logo, a little bit of blurb about what I wanted to talk about. And I got an influx of requests to me on the show from really amazing guests. And as soon as that first day with the platform, like I said, the ease of use, the quality of guests and messages that I was getting, it blew me away. And so I've stuck with it.
How many episodes are you in now on the Advertising Hour?
I think I'm on 8, about to launch 9 this Friday, but I've got, I would say, maybe 20 to 25 recorded.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been busy. So this one I'm planning, and I might even change my release schedule. I had and this is another thing actually, is that I started out setting myself the small goal of 1 episode every 2 weeks, and then Matchmaker.fm has given me such an influx and wealth of guests to choose from, that I'm thinking I might even be able to ramp up my recording, because I'll be able to release 1 episode a week easily.
That's good.
So I might end up.
It's just finding the time sometimes as well, isn't it? You know, like it's once recording it, it's great, but then you've got to edit it, and you've got to try and create the social assets, and that's kind of a whole other story. But like, that's really great to hear. I'm really pleased. And okay, just to finish up, if people want to find out more about your show, want to tune in, how can they connect with you? How can they listen in?
Well, so at the Advertising Hour on all social platforms. I think the Ad Hour on Twitter, because it's a slightly shorter handle. You can find it. I'm hosted on podcast.co, so it's pod.co, the advertising hour. Again, we'll probably link there. I'm not planning on using any other platforms, because I love the platform. And also LinkedIn requests are welcome. So send me a LinkedIn request.
Awesome, Scott.
Or email me, actually. Scott at theadvertisinghour.com.
There we go. That's probably the easiest. Scott, theadvertisinghour.com.
Yeah, I should have just remembered that.
All right, Scott, thanks very much for your time. Great to speak to you.
And you. Brilliant. Take care. Cheers.
There is an easier way to get booked onto more podcasts as a guest. Join matchmaker.fm for free today and start making connections with podcasters who are looking for guests just like you.